You're such an asshole.
Here we go. I'm going to address this very quickly. Well, not very quickly. We got a lot of reading to do. But this has pissed off pretty much every real man in the United States, arguably the world, at least the English-speaking world. And my initial reaction to this was anger. It actually pissed me the fuck off. Like the kid who I want to punch and break some teeth. I want to hunt some of these people down and hurt them. But then it dawned on me. I mean, you can't do it because it's illegal. I'm not advocating violence because you end up in jail, not because it's immoral. Violence is sometimes called for. But then it dawned on me that what we really got to do is look at this for what it's for. You have to not let your anger, rage, or emotion get, even though it's completely called for. But we got to look at what this is and push and promote it for what it is. Because this is not only an instance where you see the emperor has no clothes, but the emperor has come up to you with his dick, grabbed it, slapped it in your face a little bit. And now you can honestly say, yeah, the emperor has no clothes. And I think this is such an overstep by the academic left and the communists and the misandrists out there, genuine misandrists, people actually hate men, that all men of all political stripes will see it for what it is. Especially minority men who have traditionally voted left just because of racial reasons or because that's the way we were brought up or whatever. And you could go ahead and we could talk about racial politics, but what I really need all men of all colors to look at is how the left hates men, how the left hates you. Oh, they'll be your buddy, because you got a different skin color and all that, and they're all down with the cause, and they're going to virtue signal, and they're your best friend as long as you give them your vote and your tax dollars. But I think even more basic than race is sex or gender. And for those, I think we can actually reach out. I think we could all agree. I think we could set aside our differences. Here's what it's like. It's like the Federation fighting not the Ferengi. Who are the Federation always fighting? The Romulans? The Klingons. That's who we're fighting. Yeah, that's okay. So old school Star Trek. It was the Federation fighting the Klingons, right? This is where, okay, we're fighting. We have our disagreements. But then the Borg shows up. This is the Borg, gentlemen. This is the American left. This is the academic left. This is the American Psychological Association. And they hate men. They hate both of us. They don't care what the color of your skin is. They hate anyone with a penis. And they are coming for you. And your initial reaction, which would be healthy, is to get angry and enraged like I did. But this is such an overstep that it is very clear to everyone that the emperor has no clothes. And I think that you will have no choice but to conclude that this entire industry and profession is complete bullshit. It is malarkey. It is fraudulent. These people are frauds. And it's by their own hand. And so if you don't let the anger and rage blind you to what just happened. But a group of leftists in this particular field have completely shot themselves in the foot and lost all credibility. And they should lose all credibility with at least half the population. And that would be those of you with peni. Once we agree upon this, then we could go back to fighting each other over skin color and whatever other differences we might have. But in the meantime, I'm going to read. This was sent to me by many other people. I want to talk about it right away, but I didn't have time. This is from the American Psychological Association. APA issues first ever guidelines for practice with men and boys. For the first time ever, APA is releasing guidelines to help psychologists work with men and boys. At first blush, this may seem unnecessary. For decades, psychology focused on men, particularly white men. See, immediately, may I point out, already we're going with the race stuff. See, it's the leftist bent. to the exclusion of all others. And men still dominate professionally and politically as of 2018. Here comes your standard whitey dominates, and this is the politics. I don't know what this has to do with psychology. And it doesn't have anything to do with psychology. There's really no such thing as psychology. Psychology is merely a mask or a vehicle by which they carry on politics. Or you could say at one time there was psychology, but you see this politics, just those racial politics coming through, which belies their true and ulterior motives. Or at least exposes their political bent. As of 2018, 95.2% of chief operating officers of Fortune 500 companies were men. Yeah, it's because we work harder and smarter and stronger. Terribly sorry. According to 2017, an analysis by Fortune. Fortune. In 16 of the top companies, 80% of all high-time ranking executives were male. Yes, because we major in the harder things. We work harder, we work longer, and we work stronger. Meanwhile, the 115th Congress, which began in 2017, was 81% male. That I actually kind of disagree with. Come on, ladies. Enough of your husbands have died and left you the estate. You could go run for office out of a hobby, right? But something is amiss for men as well. Men commit 90% of homicides in the United States and represent 77% of homicide victims. They're the demographic group most at risk for being victimized by violent crime. They're 3.5 times more likely than women to die by suicide, and their life expectancy is 4.9 years shorter than women's. Boys are far more likely to be diagnosed with attention hyperactivity disorder than girls. That's because people want to diagnose it so you can prescribe more drugs and get more face time and more money. And they face harsher punishments in school, especially boys of color. APA's new guidelines for psychological practice with boys and men will strive to recognize and address these problems in boys and men while remaining sensitive to the field's androcentric past. 13 years in the making, they draw on more than 40 years of research. Research, by the way, if you go and you find out, not this particular 40 years of research, but certainly calls into question. This is another reason I don't trust the psychology profession. They did a study where they tried to recreate the results of, was it the past 30 or maybe 50 years of, they took a bunch of psychological studies that have been done in the past. They recreated them and they could not replicate the results except in a third of the studies, which should tell you right there, mathematically, the entire industry is bunk. I mean, it's already flawed. It's fraudulent. I mean, starting with Freud, everyone wants to fuck their mother, and I have behavioral cognitive theory. Oh my God. It was this hobby of snooty, arrogant, not elitist, because you'd have to be smarter than the average person to be an elitist, but social high class, bored motherfuckers who thought so high, we're going to explore the human mind. It's like, dude, it's got like trillions of neuron connections. You're never, no. And with your cute little fanciful, neurology is important. Yeah, brain surgery, sure. Neurochemistry, right. That's an actual physical science. But you pussies with your cognitive, behavioral, and evolutionary thing, or whatever the fuck it is, organizational psychology. Suck my fucking dick. It's not a real study. And so when they try to recreate all these psychological studies that were done, they found out it couldn't be replicated for the majority of time. So that's where this is coming from, boys and girls. All right, that's where this is coming from. And now just their blatant hatred of men and their hatred of masculinity, their fear perhaps even, is now shining through. And it draws on more than 40 years of research showing that traditional masculinity in psychology is harmful. See, like you guys wanting to fight, stand up for your honor, and that 2 million years of human evolution. See, that's wrong because some limp dick motherfucking psychologists in a made-up philosophy or theory or science study who cannot repeat more than a third of their scientific studies in the past. See, they've decided 2 million years of human evolution is wrong. It's wrong. And if you look at some of these professors and doctors who came up with the studies, they're not terribly masculine. See, they're just like feminists. See, the 1.9999999999999 million years of human existence was all wrong. And these precious baby boomer cocksucking hippie fucks from the 60s, they know better. They're just so precious. So traditional masculinity is psychologically harmful, and that socializing boys to suppress their emotion causes damage that echoes both inwardly and outwardly. I can't believe a word you guys are saying, because your industry is fraudulent. Not because I'm disagreeing with your findings, but no, you guys can't. I don't trust anything coming from the psychology industry. Not at all. Since that report came out that you guys can only replicate a third of your studies, I got to call into question all your other studies. I got to call into question the entire industry. I already called into question of it before, because if you've ever taken psychology and you listen to their theories, and if you read any Carl Jung or Freud, you're like, what the fuck is this shit? You realize it's a fanciful hobby of people who would like to imagine they're smarter than they really are. Then when you look at who goes into psychology, oh my God, 17-year-old prepubescent girls who don't know jack fuck all shit about the real world. And I want to help your children understand we have behavioral, cognitive, and I'm an organizational psychologist, and I just want to help the children. Fuck you. That's like HR. Go fuck yourselves. You're not a real field. You're not a real profession. I mean, in the olden days, and by olden days, I mean before this article came out, I felt my opinion on psychology was it's bullshit. It's not a real field. But I understand there is value in having independent, impartial third parties to talk to. I do believe it is good to have a counselor, someone to talk to. Now, in the olden days, you would call that your pastor, your friends, who else? Maybe a teacher or something like that. But now they've made it a science. They've made it a science. So we have theories, and none of them can be replicated. So it's not a science. It's called bunk. But we have a science. We're going to create the science. And so at least I said, all right, I can understand where it's good to have a third party. I can understand where it's good to have someone to talk to, a therapist, quote unquote, who has no vested interest in you one way or the other and is going to tell you like it is. And now I'm coming to find, and I would say, there's got to be some grizzled old Vietnam vet who became a psychologist and knows this shit. No, fuck you. You're all frauds. And for what few, there's only one psychologist I know who I like and respect. But even she and any Vietnam grizzled vets who happen to be psychologists who actually went, you guys have got to write against this to have any validity. If you want to save yourself in the eyes of the American public, of those of us with peni, you're going to have to write against this or say it's because no, your industry is fraudulent. Your industry is full of bullshit. There is no godly reason. You're going to make yourself worse off if you go to a therapist. And this is why asshole consulting does so well. Do you know how many clients I got that come up to me? Oh, my therapist, I went through it for 5 to 10 years and nothing. Yeah, it's because your therapist never told you you're fat and fucking ugly. Now lose the fucking weight and get a haircut. Then I get an email for 3 years. Oh my God, things are going great. I lost the weight. Oh my God, who would have thought the truth mattered? I was a little bit worried, and when it comes to like suicide or I got schizophrenia, I'm on in this job, I'm like, whoa, out of my jurisdiction. You got to go talk to the therapist. You got to go I can't help you with that. I can help you with life planning. I can help you with, here's what you got to do, tangible actions and items. I can't, I can't tell you to get on or off drugs. I can't tell you. I'm not legally required to do that. But what I'm saying right now is fuck you, psychologists, and fuck your entire industry. You're all a bunch of lying sacks of shit. It's all bullshit. And so going forward, I'm still going to be like, oh, yeah, hey, that's the psych. Oh, were you diagnosed with schizophrenia? Well, that's the psychology thing. Oh, you're told to go on that drug? Oh, God, that's not my jurisdiction. That's not my domain. But you know what? Fuck all of you. Just fuck all. I got a buddy who unplugged a girl. He unplugged her from the Matrix. She was on what? Adderall, antidepressant, whatever. He says, no, you're off those drugs if you're going to date me. And oh my God, imagine that. She went from this party girl whore type to this responsible, happy, fulfilled woman. Oh my God, she found out that it's not drugs and partying and booze and having cocks inside of you. It's having loved ones in your life and not having booze and not drugs, but having these drugs to make you happy. And whereas I will even admit there are people who have legitimate, it's not admit, this is a fact. There are people with legitimate mental disorders. Don't even act like you motherfuckers give a shit about them. You guys are too busy writing unnecessary prescriptions for Adderall or Ritalin or ADHD drugs or whatever the fuck it is, whatever is popular right now, because you're just in it for the money. That's all it is. Yeah, and Lord knows what the new mental disorder is going to be. Lord knows how many other millions of young kids, oh, yep, you got something wrong with you. You need drugs. Instead of just saying, no, you're not studying, you're not hitting the gym, and you're fat. Knock it the fuck off. So I have no problems recommending asshole consulting over your fucking using someone as an emotional tampon to hear your sob stories, talking about your problems they have no intentions of solving, as they just sit there. Oh yes, oh Freud said this. Oh, what do you think about your mother? Oh, let's go back to your childhood. No, you majored in dumb shit. You're a lazy fuck. Knock it the fuck off. Now give me my fucking money. I should be a fucking billionaire based off of what does the psychology industry, how much does the psychology industry pull in? Size of psychology industry. Industry revenue. Here we go. Over the past 5 years, psychologists, social workers, and marriage counselors in the U.S. are grown by center earn $17 billion. Oh my God, I should have like 16 billion of that. 16 billion of that should be mine. There's none of you fucker. Oh, marriage counselors. Yeah, marriage seems to be doing real well. Oh yeah, you guys really got it. Social workers. Yep, you solved all the social problems. You fucking frauds. You fucking leftist frauds hiding behind your fake fucking theories and your fake fucking studies and your fake fucking discipline. 13 years in the making. They draw 40. Yeah. APA's guidelines for psychological practice with girls and women were issued in 2007. I'm sure they were spot on too. They're so oppressed and they just need more support and more government money. Like the guidelines for men and boys, aims to help practitioners assist their patients spend more money, never solving their problems. Oh, I'm sorry. It doesn't say that. Aim to help practitioners assist their patients despite social forces that can harm mental health. Many researchers who study femininity also work on masculinity. Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. Several contributors to the guidelines for girls and women have also contributed to the new guidelines for boys and men. I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have. First, cut off their testicles. Though men benefit from patriarchy. See it right here, right here. Though men benefit from patriarchy, they are also impinged by patriarchy, says Ronald F. Levant. Now, I looked this guy up. There's not a lot on him. You can look at him and you can see soy. This is not a real man. Any one of us could take him in a fight. That's not the ultimate point I'm saying. He is a low testosterone, not real man. He is a soy boy. Of course, he's a baby boomer. And he has never set foot in the real world. Never. He's been in academia his entire life. And if you got this guy saying, though men benefit from the patriarchy, sorry, turn in your man card now. You're not a man. And you could say, well, you're just saying that because you don't understand this. No, you don't understand, Ron, sorry, because you've never been a man. You've never worked a real job in your life. You probably come from a spoiled, pampered background. I try to look him up. There's not a lot. We couldn't run a Clary test on him. I'll tell you this. He has always been in academia. And if you look at him, he's a fucking pussy. All right. And he could say, well, the past 50 years of psychological research say that that's an unfair claim, and you have suffering. Yeah, okay. Well, the 1.999999999 million years of human evolution, particularly male evolution, running through my veins and genetics right now says, hey, Ron, you're a fucking pussy. You're not a real man. Get the fuck off my team. And he's not. He's not to be trusted, guys. Do you trust God Almighty? You want to kick, you want to have term limits. You want to kick these career politicians out of office. Why don't we kick these career, never working in the real world people into the real world? Like, yeah, you can only be in office for 8 years total. Okay. That's it. I don't care if you start as dog catcher and then you're president for it. That's it. You get 8 years or 12 years total, whatever. And then you got to go work in the real world. We should do the same thing with people in the liberal arts and academia. Hey, you get a decade to work in academia and fuck around land and not the real world. But when that time's up, you're working in the coal mines, motherfucker. You're working on the railroads. You're doing accounting. You're doing something real. None of this. Well, I have a theory here as I take some tweezers and jerk my little penis off. Yeah, I think he's got a. Yeah, he also has a doctorate in education, right? Okay. Levant was the APA president in 2005. See, he was their president. He was the chief psychological professions president in 2005. I mean, that's who's heading up this organization. We might seriously. What do you want? Himmler to head up the Israeli American League, the Jewish Defense Fund? Should I head up the NBA Tall Guys Basketball Association? What? This guy, if that's the president, oh my God. The needs of men. Oh, this ought to be good. All right, second wave feminist movements in the 1960s. All psychology was the psychology of men. Most major studies were done only on white men and boys who stood in as proxies for humans as a whole. I'd like that cited, please. I'd like to see the research on that. Researchers assumed that masculinity and femininity were opposite ends of a spectrum, and healthy psychology entailed identified strongly with gender roles conferred by a person's biological sex. Yes, that's how it works. But let me guess, you guys in the 60s and 70s with your pot and your LSD and your no work ethic, you thought differently, right? But just as the old psychology left out women and people of color and conformed to gender role stereotypes, it failed to take men's gendered experiences into account. Once psychologists began studying the experiences of women through a gender lens, it became increasingly clear that the study of men needed the same gender-aware approach, says Levant. Oh, shut up. You said nothing. The main thrust of the subsequent research is that traditional masculinity marked by, listen, this is bad now, guys. This is bad. Marked by stoicism, which means accepting what you do and do not control and not getting worked up about it. That is, I think, one of the pinnacle achievements of a mature man is where you are stoic. You do not let things you don't control bother you. Even I wrestle with this. Like, I should be very stoic about this article, but it's very hard to be 100%. I am stoic about it now because they have shot themselves in the foot. I don't control this bullshit being published, but I sure as hell could expose it and point out the American Psychological Association just like taking their dick and hitting the men's face and say, see, we know better than you. We know better than you. Actually, the American Psychological Association had to go get a strap-on dick because, again, they have tweezer-sized dicks. You know, they say, oh, Mr. Levant, I think we're going to need a little bit bigger dick than that. So, oh, he has Freud. He has penis envy. See, they're probably saying that about me now. Anyway, these are bad things. Stoicism is bad. Knowing the, what is it? The alcoholic's prayer or the stoic's prayer. Stoicism is not a bad thing. Competitiveness? That's the next. Competitive. Oh, you mean where we decide who's the best and we unleash new and best technologies that dominate in the market and advance society and increase life expectancies and standards of living? You mean that competitiveness? Dominance and aggression. Well, that's pretty good. I like aggression. I don't know about dominance. But aggression is good. Who would ask the women out? We think women are going to ask guys out? Oh, that would indicate they're equal to men. Levant is on the whole harmful. Men socialized in this way are less likely to engage in healthy behaviors. For example, a 2011 study led by Kristen Springer, PhD, found that men with the strongest beliefs about masculinity were only half as likely as men with more moderate masculine beliefs to get preventative health care. Well, that much I will agree with. That's the one thing. Like, guys, you got to go in regularly. You get the finger shoved up your ass, test your balls, make sure you don't got testicular cancer. And in 2007, researchers led by James Marshall, PhD, Boston College, found that the more men conformed to masculine norms, the more likely they were to consider as normal risky health behaviors such as heavy drinking, using tobacco, and avoiding vegetables, and to engage in these risky behaviors themselves. How about if maybe women weren't a bunch of fat, bitchy sows that they are today and supported their men? And instead of being told that we're evil, we have privilege, and that we're oppressing women, and there's women. I mean, my God, when's the last time a guy has been cheerleaded on? This has been going on for almost more than 30 years. 35 years to go on my take. Let's just call it 40 years. Don't you think constantly cheering on women and telling men they suck, maybe that's why they drink? Maybe that when women are told that they don't need men and you take away the only thing that men really worked for, gave them purpose and meaning in life, and that would be a wife that would presumably have kids and a family, and you made them fat, ornery. I don't need no man. To the X, to the Y, to the Z, to the C. Oh, wow. I wonder why guys drink. And then you replace them with government checks. You tell them that their nature is bad and harmful. I can't. Oh, and then you outsource all the industry. I can't imagine why guys drink. Can't imagine. Or maybe that's too simple a theory. Too simple there, Ron? No. It just has to be their genetic nature. I'm sure that's what it is. Booty, booty, boo. This masculine reluctance towards self-care extends to psychological help. Well, but you look, at least when I go to a doctor, let's say I got a heart attack, the heart surgeon puts in a angioplasty or does whatever, my heart works better now. Okay? You psychologists, you don't solve any problems. You never cure your patients. You just want them to keep coming back for more and more and more. See, think about how much unlimited business these guys are setting themselves up for. The nature of being male is a problem. So how do we solve that? You can't solve it. It's genetically encoded into your every ounce of your being, guys. So you're going to need weekly therapy sessions. You're going to need, and we already have them, don't we? We have sensitivity training. We have sexual harassment training. We have diversity training. You need coaching. You need to talk to HR. You need to conform. Oh, we have freshman orientation. We have all these prerequisite classes in college that reminds you about patriarchy and how much privilege you have. Except now, see, they can say, oh, you're exhibiting signs of competitiveness, stoicism, and the pursuit of excellence. You have a mental disorder. You must come talk to me at $200 an hour, 3 hours a week, and then we'll treat it. It'll never go away, but we'll learn to have you be a moderate masculine male. Anywhere close there, Levant, baby? And guys, the funny thing is, if there's, God almighty, please, gentlemen, please, God almighty, gentlemen, all of you, I'm imploring all you boys out there, I don't care what your skin color is, because then they go into race. That's the only reason I'm bringing up the race thing, because then they go into race later on, because of course we have to. Guys, okay, whether you're on the right or the left, all right, psychologists never have solved the problem. Not once. I know Molyneux says therapy is worth it. Okay, well, Molyneux is an incredibly rare gentleman who also put in a lot of self-effort, right? For the most part, though, I'd love to see, please, even in the discussion section, I'll go back to it. Tell me if any of you actually went to a therapist and they solved your problem, or was it basically, yeah, I got to do this shit myself and stop being a fucking pussy? That's what I want to know. I don't think one therapist, they're not capable. The men who are in the industry are not real men, by and large. That grizzled Vietnam vet who went into psychology to help out his fellow soldiers, I've never met him. That's just a figment of my imagination. I'm imagining there's one guy out there like that. But every psychologist, therapist type that I've ever ran into of the male persuasion was not a real man. He wasn't a guy I wanted on my side in a bar fight. He wasn't a guy I would confide in. And it's a guy's opinion I wouldn't request. The rest are women, which the one therapist that I do like, she was in my dance class of all things, and we had an interesting conversation about psychology. You got to read Friday. I said, all right, I don't believe it. Don't tell me you can, well, you're right. It's more of a different approach. It's not exactly a science. Like, what? And I appreciated that she would talk to people, right? So there was that one gal. But for every one of her, my God, not one sane person did I know ever majored in psychology. They all were fucked in the head. I remember one time my freshman year in college, the first girl that kind of maybe would go on a date, but I could because she was fucking mental. She was a psychology major. And we were supposed to go on a date one time, and she stood me up. Then I saw her in the cafeteria. She's like, oh, sorry. This is before cell phones and texting. He's like, sorry, I couldn't make. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was still dumb enough to like believe whatever she said. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, maybe we could go out another time. Sure enough, I got stood up again. Second time I saw her again, probably in it was in the cafeteria, and she just started crying at like 1 PM. I hadn't even said anything. There was another psychology student I knew, came straight from mommy and daddy's money. They paid her way through Middlebury, which is a worthless leftist indoctrination camp over in New England somewhere. I think it's Vermont or the hill. Extra special Quantahaha with the biatch sauce on the side. And then she went right into the arms of a hardworking CPA who just he went to Home Depot one time. I remember. This is the pot rack guy. I've told my pot rack story about this. He was living with a psychology grad student. One time he's like, hey, can you go to Home Depot with me? And I said, sure. What do you mean? You're going to get a radial. So I'm like, what do you need me to get the radial? So I was like, oh, so you could cut off my nuts so you can give it to my girlfriend. And that's what happened. She was mental. She was Miss Psycho Bunnies. None of them are sane. And then, as I said before, when these people decide they're going to go into psychology, it's a sign of laziness. It's the sign of an inferior person. Most people, particularly young women, go into psychology because they don't want to work hard, because there's no math until they find out they get to grad school. Actually, there's a fair amount of statistics involved. But if they want to get the doctorate, these are not the self-bias, the self-selection bias on this group of people is so bad and so inferior. This is the last group of people you'd ever want to listen to about your mental health. Once again, asshole consulting or just a good buddy that'll kick you square in the nuts is going to be an infinitely better help than the most professional, than the president, the former president of the APA. I'll put my fucking therapy against that cocksuckers any day. Well, you see, testosterone is bad. Shut up. Because of the way men have been brought up to be self-sufficient and able to take care of themselves. Oh, no. Anything but that, right? Leftists, you need everybody dependent on the government. We don't need none of those self-sufficient and able to take care of themselves, guys. Good thing you beat that out of the millennials and Gen Zers. Any sense that things aren't okay needs to be kept secret. Rabanowitz. Oh, who's Rabanowitz? Frederick Rabanowitz. Right, steward of the new guidelines. Yeah, let's look up this guy. He co-wrote this thing, it seems. Copy. Let's see how much soy is in his diet. Would you want him? Would you pick him first for kickball? Frederick Urbanowitz. Oh God, look at this guy. What the fuck? Yeah, look at this guy. Look at this guy. Hanging out with a fucking hippie. Yeah, okay. Yes, I do judge you the way you look because it tells me everything. Biophysiologically, I can look at you and say, yeah, you're weak. You're weak. No, you're not a man. No, you're not. I don't even have to look up his background. That guy's been parking his ass over in fucking academia his entire life. I have some theories here. Hang on, let me borrow the tweezers from Ronald. I have some theories about those men working in those dangerous jobs out there. It's bad for their mental health. They should just park their asses inside this air-conditioned unit the entire time and study books about the human mind. Because of the way that part of what happens is men who get to keep things. Part of what happens is men who keep things to themselves look outward to see that no one else is sharing any of the conflicts that they feel inside. That makes them feel isolated. They think they're alone. They think they're weak. No, they don't think they're weak. They are alone. They are alone. If you wanted to help out guys, the time was long ago to say, what do men want? Actually, wasn't that the subtitle? The needs of men. Notice in these 5-6 paragraphs of the needs of men, not once is it mentioned, hey, maybe chicks ought to be less fat and suck more dick. Maybe women might want to be a little bit more wife material. Maybe women should not nag. Maybe we shouldn't have replaced them with government checks. Maybe we should let them keep the majority of their money and not constantly bitch and whine about how they're aggressors and all the problems in the world, the patriarchy and the wage gap. Multiple masculinities. Do I even want to go into this? Other people's perceptions of masculinity and manner too. Maybe racial stereotyping. Why Joel Wong, PhD, and colleagues have reported. Do I want to look him up? All right. I don't have to read through it. It's a long, lengthy, boring read. Then they're going here like changing the culture. Like, we need to control and change men. It literally is. Where is it? I don't read that if I can find it. There was a quote in one of the articles I read where they're like saying we need to change. Here it is. Here it is. Get that message out to men. They're adaptable, emotional, and capable of engaging fully outside of rigid norms, is what the new guidelines are designed to do. And if psychologists can focus on supporting men in breaking free of masculinity roles that don't help them, the effects could spread beyond just the mental health for men, McDermott says. If we could change men, he says, we can change the world. Who is this McDermott fuck? Hey, McDermott, try and show up at my place and try and change me. I'd love to see you, McDermott. What's his first name? Where is he? Where are you? Where are you, McDermott? Come out and play. That doesn't matter. All right. Plenty of anger, plenty of rage, plenty of disgust. Look at the response that this article has gotten. Even on the mainstream media sites, they at least ran with it, which means they're like, hey, this is controversial. This is not your run-of-the-mill APA reports. And thank God every conservative outlet has highlighted it as a bunch of bunk, as a bunch of baloney, and an attack on men. And I think that the APA has overstepped their bounds here. Now, as a matter of fact, I know they have. It's a question whether you guys are going to recognize that or not, whether the soy boys, the try guys, are like, we should just totally. So let's throw those guys away. Right? But I think for the rest of us guys who kind of like having a dick, The rest of us guys, like, yeah, it's all right being a guy. We like being guys. Right? There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with stoicism, competitiveness, excellence, achievement, self-sufficiency, and self-reliance. For those of us who still have our balls, like, yeah, it's nice. There's nothing wrong with it. And now these sneaky little wormers, I don't know what to call them. They're just trying to like, well, they're just going to move over Tim's window a little bit over this way now. It's, just saying it's a mental disorder. That's a fuck you. That's too far. They went too far. And what I want you to do is realize that they just shot themselves in the foot. To point this out, I've half tempted to copy the whole thing, copy it and paste it and save it on the blog so we actually have an original recording in case they decide to edit it or change it because of its political tone and like, oh, masculinity is bad and all this other snivelly little bullshit. But then finally, don't give any credibility or credence to psychologists. None. If you run a business, you don't hire them. If you have a problem, you don't go, God almighty, don't go to a psychologist. Don't even bother going to a psychologist. Right? It's just no reason to. None. They're not going to help you. They're going to hurt you. I have not heard one good example about talking to a therapist. Not one. Everyone I've ever heard from has come from like, oh, we go to couples counseling or whatever. And if it's a woman, she's a feminist quanta ha and a half. And I can't believe it. I didn't believe it at first. Like, really? Do they always side with the woman just because she's a woman? Or come on, they got to be like, nope. Now, after reading their political bias, reading this tripe, no, now I'm thoroughly convinced that there is a feminist political leftist socialist agenda. They just happen to slap on psychologist on top of it, make it seem like it's not what it is. There is no godly reason to go to a psychologist. There's no godly reason to listen to a psychologist. And whatever psychological studies they come up with have already been proven to be bullshit 67% of the time. And probably 100%, now you'd probably wiggle with the figures, maneuver and massage the numbers. But it's very clear that the American Psychological Association has no intention of helping out mental health. They don't even know what fucking mental health is. It's their hobby. This is like sociology majors. This is like political science majors. They don't give a damn about helping out society. They don't give a damn about improving politics. The psychologists certainly don't give a damn about improving your mental health. They view this as a cute little hobby, a little intellectual interest, a little extra intellectual experiment that's more important to them than the hundreds of millions of lives that are ruined or killed in the case of communism than the people themselves. I mean, how many millions of kids are being told today, oh yeah, you're transgendered or you're bio because it's political, because these therapists don't have the balls to say, no, you're not, little Jimmy. You're just trying to be popular. How many little kids out there right now have been given, how many adults over the course of life have been given all these unnecessary drugs because these therapists had their cute little pet theories? You're nothing but fucking cattle experiments to these people. Only difference between what the Nazis did with their death experiments is that it was physically painful and torturous. Here, it's mentally painful and torturous. In both cases, the experimenters cared more about their pet theories than their human subjects. If you think this true quackery, that's what it is, quackery, mad science. Now, I can't even call it science, mad bullshit. If you even think this has an ounce of credibility, you're wrong. And whereas, again, at one time, before reading this article, I would have given some credence, some credibility to the psychology profession because, like, yes, you do need an independent third-party individual. Now, go fuck yourselves. You're all a bunch of frauds and hacks and whacks. Right? You guys got real problems. Hey, look, you can always go to a therapist. But hey, how about you try this? How about you go talk to your dad if he's around? Heaven forbid, that's where 90% of these psychological problems come from. Go talk to your pastor. Go talk to a trusted uncle. And if you don't have that, come talk to Asshole Consulting. If you don't like me, go talk to Rich Cooper. If you don't like Rich or me, go talk to Terrence Pop. Go talk to O'Shea Jackson. If you don't like white guys, go talk to O'Shea Jackson. You don't like us guys, Latino MGTOW. Although I don't really, I'm just, what I'm saying is go talk to a bunch of dickheads on the internet who tell you like it is. And for whatever paltry fees that we're charging you, as long as we're allowed to give you the direct dope,
Right. Well, you see, you have problems with masculinity, and you're a stoic, and you need to reach your inner feelings and be more.
fuck that bullshit. You've had that for 40 years of your entire life now. Well, for you millennials, 20 or 30. It's not gonna cost you nothing, but it's gonna cost you close to nothing to just go hire an older brother like me, or a Rich Cooper, or any one of the other guys out there that are trying. I think it's just me, Rich, and a handful, or Rolo. I think even Rolo. If you can't afford that, go buy our books. It's not that hard. It's not, even Molyneux, if you could get, I think Molyneux's a goddamn saint. Because me, I want you in and out. I'm like a Jiffy Lube. What's your fucking problem? Okay, here's your fucking solution. Give me your fucking money. Now get the fuck out of here. Oh, and Molyneux. Hello. Now, no, go in a little bit more detail. Yes. Wait. Back up a bit. I'm like, oh, fuck. This is going to be a 3-hour conversation. And he's very thorough. The guy's a fucking saint. But there's a backlog to get on his show. But really, you want your problem solved? Why don't you give Asshole Consulting a shot, all right? And then you could go to the therapist, It's not like if you go to Asshole Consulting, you can't go see a therapist. But see if a swift kick in the ass doesn't do it for you. So, well, you got slight on the spectrum. You're slightly autistic and you have hints of ass. Oh, fucking Christ. No, you don't need drugs. You need to fucking pay attention and study and stop being a pussy. How about you try that for 6 months? See if that doesn't solve. Then don't worry. They're not going to run out of Ritalin. They're not going to run out of Spurg pills, what a fuck drug that is. They're not going to run out of Oh, are you depressed? How about you go fucking run? Okay, before you sign up for Adderall or what is it? Zylac? Someone, before you take some antidepressant drugs, why don't you try running a bit? See if that works, all right? And hey, ladies, if you're having trouble with your love life, how about you lose 50 pounds before you go and you drink yourself to death with wine and cat dander? And $75,000 worth of therapist fees over the next 40 years. Why don't you give me $25,000 of that money and I'll actually solve your fucking problem? So there, let us rejoice. Rejoice. The APA fucked up because Ronald Levant exposed what a prick he is.